It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, here's our next question. And by the way, I just saw that he commented in the chat. He is, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to go show my wife." So that must mean we said what he wanted us to say. That's so he's going to show it to her. Here, 'cause she was probably like, "Hey, we can't do it. We can't go below 25%. Sorry." All right, this next question is from Aaron. Aaron says, question. I just turned 30. Man, I love these 30-year-old late 20s.
They saw the headline.
They did. They're like,
I
I'm
saw the headline
up.
and Reeby.
That's it. I got to be there.
Now they got Shazam me here.
I just turned 30. I want to make a career change, but I'd have to take a massive pay cut for a year or two until the income grew back. How do I deal with the fear of making that change? And I think a lot of folks, one of the things we say is early on, if you're going to take a risk, if you're going to do something scary, do it early. When you have time, that's okay if it goes wrong and you can rebound. I bet a lot of people in the audience right now, Brian, are thinking this thing, especially, we did a show where, 40% of folks are looking to leave their jobs, and probably, how do I deal with the fear of that? How do I think through that?
Look, I think fear in some ways is super healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, being an entrepreneur and a person that took a big transition when I was in my late 20s, and I'm coming out the other side and seeing the fulfillment that comes from it. It is healthy to have fear, but you've got to, here's how you do it in a good way. Because I think so often people say, pursue your passions, make yourself happy. But everybody always leaves out the messy, ugly stuff that you got to do to prepare yourself. Meaning, like, if you're going to make a jump on anything, make sure you have a cushion. If you were learning how to do a tightrope, do you think when you're learning how to do a tightrope that you don't put the net underneath at the circus first? No, these people that walk between buildings and stuff, they first put the net down first. So they develop, and then they're still crazy that they're doing it even after they take it down. Your cash, your liquidity, your ability to have access to resources is that safety net. So that's the first thing. Whenever you're going to make any of these crazy jump decisions, make sure that your cash reserves and the healthy stuff that's good, your net is protected. The second thing is preparation, because I have found whenever I'm scared, whenever I'm fearful of doing something that I know will be life-changing, I'm like, man, this is definitely that opportunity. I better measure twice, cut once. So I'm going to create 3 plans. And I mean, create a plan. Don't dream. Dream is when you just think about it, you daydream about how awesome it's going to be. A plan is you actually put it to paper. And I'm talking about, I want you to open up a Google Sheets or an Excel spreadsheet to where you're creating what I think will happen. Oh my goodness, we're going to be rich. Or, oh, this was the worst decision of my life. And if you can run assumptions with those 3 scenarios, I think it's going to prepare you also from an emotionally healthy standpoint of what I might be facing. And then you can go ahead and pre-plan for those contingencies instead of just going at it naked and going, oh, man, I hope this all works out. Because if you're just hoping, you're really setting yourself up for a dangerous situation. So put up your safety net, create a plan with all contingencies taken into account, and then do the last thing, and this is nerdy CPA stuff, that whole T column. What's the pro column? What's the con column? Now that you've done your work, is it worth doing the jump?
Let me ask you a question, because one of the things Aaron said in here is, I'm going to take a massive pay cut for a year or two. So it sounds like he's not starting a small business, right? It sounds like he's changing careers. And we've had people pivot careers, move from one thing to another and take a pay cut. Is there any sort of due diligence that someone can do? Or what's a way to know that, because he said it's going to take 2 years for his income to get back there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, like, when you left your first employer, and went to your second employer, and you had an idea of what you thought was going to happen. And you said you recognized pretty early on when you got there, it was not going to go in the direction that you thought it was going to go. Are there things that you wish you would have done differently as you went through the interview process or as you got into it to recognize, okay, are my expectations actually realistic? Am I really going to be able to do this? Do you know what I'm asking there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely ought to do your homework on knowing where the limits of the opportunities are. But look, I'm going to tell you, all things in life, people will pitch you something.
Sure.
And look, my old employer, I have nothing but great things to say about them. But it is one of those things where I recognize the opportunity I had in my head was not the opportunity that they thought they were providing to me. I mean, no fault to them. I think maybe I was just an overly optimistic 20-something that thought I could run through walls.
Yep.
So I had to go create my own walls to run through. But it is one of those things. So I think that's one you need to probably any type of big jump. Because I think that's the mistake I made when I made the jump is I just assumed the grass was always greener. I assumed only the optimistic, only the rosy assumptions. I want you to make sure you understand the negative parts. And that's why I like you creating the plan of what failure looks like as well as what you think will happen, because that will keep you honest with yourself so that you can plan accordingly. Because that is the problem. Because look, we're a motivating show too, and I love getting people motivated. That's why people say, "Why do you use 10% on 20-year-olds?" Is because look, it's incredible when you watch what your money can do when you're 20-something investing. I want you to be motivated, and there's lots of that content out there. But when it comes that you're jeopardizing the entire financial household for this jump, you better make sure you got some cold water in there too to make sure the recipe isn't just all unicorns and rainbows and sugar and spice that this is going to turn out. You need to have some of the vinegar in there to make sure that you're going to land on this no matter what the situation is. Because I can go ahead and tell you, the first 3 years of being an entrepreneur, scared to death, lost a tremendous amount of sleep. The only reason my wife probably didn't know how bad it was is because we had so much in cash reserves, that safety net I'd built. And then things just, and I'm going to say it's providence, some answered prayers and the things that happened when they were supposed to about year 3. And it all worked out. But it was not an easy process. Everybody always looks at somebody who's super successful and they go, man, that's awesome. That's where I want to be. Yep. But they don't realize how much just cruddiness there was in that journey. I just want you to make sure you're prepared for the cruddy part of it so you do get the fulfillment. And that's why I think when you talk to a successful person, and they get that glazed over look when they're talking about the journey, it's because, man, there is something magical when you go the road less traveled and it works out. But, man, you still got to walk on the glass. You still got to go across the fire coals, and you still have to go across the valleys that other people aren't willing to do to get that glazed over fulfillment look. And it's not an easy journey.
I'm going to get this out of my head right now. This is normally I'd save until after the show, but you said this. So this is really more for the content team. Sorry for those of you out there. You just described that the ingredients to a great business plan are rainbows and unicorns, sugar and spice, and vinegar. And that perfectly dictates the 3 different scenarios you lay out, rainbows and unicorns. You guys write that down.
That's a good point.
Let's make a t-shirt out of that. That's going to be awesome.